Yeah, but you do want to retain the simplicity of the piano version, don't you? The orchestra will bring all the grandeur and the grandness.
Yeah, no, it would be silly in a way, just to get a sort of Mahler orchestra for something that is actually very, very small. I always find that is a particular skill to do this because you need to recreate this simplicity using the palette of the sounds of the orchestra, but without overshadowing then the voice. Uh, Germany have an incredible heritage of songs with piano. Wolf, Strauss, whatever you mentioned, the leader were incredible, important, much more important than in Italy. But the good thing of this is that every country, every composer even, have his or her different way to bring the words into music because this is what is a song. So I'm very happy of this program that on one side explore something really beautiful and sometimes solar, with Tosti, and then in the second half is brews this storm of music and it's great that the SOI, the Symphony Orchestra of India, is doing this whole cycle. I think it will be such a mm, wonderful thing and a wonderful experience for everybody.
All right, extremely excited for the first time ever. I'm speaking to the great Carlo Rizzi as conductor on the 21st of February, Saturday. It's the SOI Spring 2026 season. Carlo takes over, and the tenor is Davide Giusti. We're going to be talking with Carlo about that particular performance and wishing him luck for tonight's big one. Hi, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Very well, thank you very much. I'm here in Mumbai, great place, buzzing city, great orchestra, and great hall actually.
Lovely. Carlo, you are universally known as a leading exponent of the Italian opera. And I believe that you were a collaborative pianist and you still are. Tell me
Yeah,
how you first discovered the songs of Tosti and Cardillo.
ma dunque, obviously, when I was young, I was playing the piano. I knew the songs; they're part of our tradition. But then, it's a kind of repertoire that for a conductor is not done very often. But that in the last years, being the artistic director of Opera Rara, I was very much looking into the songs for piano and voices, for voice and piano, of Donizetti. And in fact, we have just finished to record 8 CDs, on 7 of which I am actually accompany, great singers. So these songs like, Tosti, came back to my mind because they are really very little jewels. They are so witty, so beautiful. The lines are the melodies are so moving, and even if they are not incredibly, challenging from the point of view, harmonical point of view, but they clearly depict an era where the voice, there was no shame in the voice to express the feeling of love, of hate, of passion, of joy or sorrow. And I think that this is the best thing of that part, the tradition of the Italian music of the time. So I'm very happy that I can propose this in a orchestral transcription so that we can do it with the orchestra. That will add also a little bit more color compared to the piano version.
Yeah, but you do want to retain the simplicity of the piano version, don't you? The orchestra will bring all the grandeur and the grandness.
Yeah, no, it would be silly in a way, just to get a sort of Mahler orchestra for something that is actually very, very small. And in fact, I didn't do this transcription, has been done by other people. I always find that is a particular skill to do this because you need to recreate this simplicity using the palette of the sounds of the orchestra, but without overshadowing then the voice, because obviously the relationship that the composer had in mind was between the voice and the piano, not between a voice and an orchestra. So, but these are done really very tastefully. So I think that they will just add to the dimension of the voice, what the voice will sing.
Let's move to Puccini. Carlo, a lot of people in the audience, if they are unfamiliar with the opera's plot, how do you shape the orchestral phrasing to make them understand the narrative, is my question to you.
Well, look, is very interesting what you're saying because um, Puccini is one of my favorite composers and also one that have done a lot. And we were doing the intermezzo from Manon Lescaut, that is beautiful short piece. But personally, I just would like to say what you were saying about the concert goers not knowing the music. I have done during lockdown, when there was COVID, I've done two, I call it a symphonic suite of the operas of Puccini, of one on Tosca and one on Madama Butterfly. The idea that I had was because I was conducting some time ago the suite from Rosenkavalier, and I was thinking, would be possible to do something with an Italian opera composer? And of course, you have to find a composer where the orchestra is not only accompanying and supporting the voices. So it was not possible for Rossini, it was not possible for Bellini, not possible for Verdi. But then when I arrived at Puccini, I say, hey, this is a genius of the orchestration. And so I really hope, I've recorded these suites. I have performed the suites. I will perform it also next month with the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. And always I have seen that the public that sometimes, yeah, maybe they know, the main melodies of the big aria, but they are really very struck by the beauty of this music, and it's a real symphonic music. And so, when I say what I hope that they will actually understand that Puccini was not only, as some people say, or somebody that was very gifted in creating melodies, but was just a bloody good composer and a great instrumentalist, instrumentator. In fact. And then I stop. In fact, Ravel, that was a master of the orchestration, there is this story that I don't know if it's true or not, but that one of the pupil of Ravel, he was sort of saying something derogatory about Puccini, and Ravel said, "Are you mad?" And he went to the piano and started to play, I don't know which opera, to show to the student the richness and the
Wow.
variety of the invention, both in terms of harmonic terms and of the timbre of the orchestra. Great composer.
Well, for those of you who are listening and watching and who happen to be in New York, let me tell you, Carlo Rizzi, since he mentioned Madama Butterfly, is heading to the Metropolitan Opera in New York City after Mumbai to conduct Madama Butterfly. So look forward to that if you're traveling westwards. Okay, Carlo, at one end of the spectrum is the Italian repertoire, and then there's Wagner. What structural or harmonic through lines are you going to emphasize to link the Italian repertoire in the same bill with Wagner?
Well, you see, is just going back, pedaling a little bit backward to the first question that you asked about the songs. Uh, Germany have an incredible heritage of songs with piano. Wolf, Strauss, whatever you mentioned, the leader were incredible, important, much more important than in Italy. But the good thing of this is that every country, every composer even, have his or her different way to bring the words into music, because this is what is a song. You express the words with the music. And so also, of course, Wagner is a completely different composer. There are also philosophically, if you think about the fact that he was doing his libretti, the fact that he conceived and created masterpiece, this immense cathedral that is the tetralogia, no? The Ring, of course, is different from Ether Page's song of Donizetti or of Tosti, but in his own way, also, Wagner does the same thing. He used the music to emphasize the words and the feelings. So I think that it's not. There is this misconception that Wagner is difficult, Italian opera is easy. No, they are different. Of course, you need, it's like comparing, what is better, the 100-meter or the marathon. Yeah, it's stupid to compare it because it's two completely different things. And of course, you have athletes that are genius in the 100-meter. Yeah, they can run the marathon, but are not very good, and vice versa. So everybody, composers, musicians, singers, conductors, needs to do what they can do best. And but at the end of the story, as I said, the target is the same, is to express emotion through the medium of the voice.
Very beautifully put. Carlo, you do know that the Symphony Orchestra of India, the SOI, is performing a Beethoven cycle over the next 2 years. It's wonderful that you're doing the Fifth Symphony. Talk to me about what it means to you. I mean, it's remarkable, but you ask people about it, and some will say it's sad, some will say it's happy. It's very difficult to put your finger on it, but it's definitely a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, but look, one thing about music is that you cannot define it as happy or, for every person that says, oh, this is a lovely music. Some people will say, oh, no, this is actually very sad. So that cannot be unequivocally right or wrong. But what is important, I think, is the tension inside the material. It's like when you see a beautiful sculpture of Canova, and when you see the Pietà of Michelangelo, uh, is the same material. It's marble, but one is all round and wonderfully put. The other is so rough, so full of pain, of emotions. And the same thing, is with Beethoven. You have this opening that, yes, has been written encyclopedias of what this opening means. I think it just means that is three notes that go to the fourth note. Pa 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 pi. It's very simple, but how you do it is important. But then you have the second movement that start like a little wander in the park, and then with just very few strings, and then grows, and then you have the third movement that starts in a very mischievous way, but then with the trio, then immediately goes from from the minor to this explosion. Is honestly, it's like an explosion on the C major, and of the fourth movement. So I think that Beethoven is an incredibly complex composer. It's not just nice or you sit there and relax. With Beethoven, there is always a dialogue between the public and the performers. It's not just something that you read, that you listen reading the newspaper with a cup of tea. I mean, you can do it, but then you don't do it in the right way, I think. So I am very happy of this program that on one side explore something really beautiful and sometimes solar, with Tosti, and then in the second half is brews this storm of music and it's great that the SOI, the Symphony Orchestra of India, is doing this whole cycle. I think it will be such a mm, wonderful thing and a wonderful experience for everybody and people will grow with this, conductors included.
Carlo, just for the Indian audiences, a little bit about your feelings about tenor Davide Giusti.
It's beautiful voice. Beautiful voice. You see, what we were talking before about Italian music and German leader. it's not true that everybody can do the same, and it's not true that somebody that can sing Tosti then can sing something else, or vice versa. I think that we have a very, very good artist, a very good singer that knows how to paint the words of this very simple but beautiful, like painting, miniature paintings. And I think it will be a very enjoyable concert.
I'd like you to talk about the Symphony Orchestra of India. It's the 20th year, Carlo, and Martin Brabants was telling us how happy he is that you are part of the celebrations, and how much respect and love that he has for you. And it's wonderful that you are now guesting for the spring 2026 season. But also great news that Martin Brabants is now chief conductor of the SOI. So your thoughts on this lovely orchestra, Marat Besangaliye, Chairman Santuk, and the facility at the National Center of the Performing Arts, which I'm sure you're very impressed by, and we are very, very
Yeah, yeah, of course.
patriotic about it. We're very proud.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I want to say, what Martin said about me, you can mirror it back to him because, in the world of conducting, there is a lot of, in Italian, there is this word fuffa that means, something that is like selling smoke. You know, Conductors do this. They don't make mistake officially. So, um, so there are some conductors that, yeah, they live on this. There are some conductors that actually work and know how to do the work. Martin is one of them. And I think that is such a good thing that there has been this, this meeting point between the orchestra, the management, and Martin, because I think that Martin is exactly the right kind of artist and of conductor that can, I use a word that is maybe, help this orchestra to grow, because it's not just enough when you want to have a long time project. It's not just enough to come there and do a thing a la WizKid. Is a much deeper relationship of trust that you need to build with the musicians. And I know this when I was music director in Welsh National Opera. Martin was music director in English National Opera, and this way to build together is what will make the orchestra grow. That is a little bit short of a miracle because from nothing, Mr. Santuk have created this orchestra, this vision, and well, here we are, 20 years later. Is a big moment.
Carlo Rizzi's name is also synonymous with the La Scala in Milan. So just, your wonderful experiences there. What young musicians can learn from that and your tenure there?
Well, I am from Milan, so I was lucky that when I was growing up was a golden period of the theater. Was the period, well, first there were incredible artists. Claudio Abbado was the artistic and the chief conductor. Also, there was a different moment from the cultural point of view. People wanted to experiment. There were some incredible production I saw, and I worked also as a repetiteur there. And then, of course, I started conducting there, and I always, when I go out, in the pit, I always come in and just look up in the first Galleria to the place where I was going always to listen to the operas when I was very young. I started at 12 and I fell in love with the opera in that theater. So it's a difficult place, of course, because we know everything obviously about the public of La Scala is very unforgiving, but that's fine because they have the right to be, because it's such an important theater, and is also a great theater, great orchestra, great chorus, and yeah, is always make me very, very, very happy when I go back there.
I want to understand the order. What did you keep in mind when you thought you're going to move from Rossini Tosti, Puccini, Wagner, and then ending with Beethoven, that particular order.
Well, the thing is this one. You see, in the first half, of course, I wanted to give a sort of panorama of voice and more related to the world of opera. This is why, there are some orchestral pieces with, well, Rossini, but then also the Puccini, this beautiful intermezzo, and then the prelude of Wagner. And for the voices, of course, is always difficult. If we would have maybe the singers would have been a completely different program because we could have explored one side and the other side, but we had only one singer. And then Beethoven, we are just thinking about the fact that the Symphony Orchestra of India is doing this cycle, and why not?
My last question is about America. Since you're going to the Metropolitan and conducting Madama Butterfly, you've traveled the world. You've staged in Italy, the UK, guesting in India. What is different musically, administratively about going to America?
Well, in America, as you know, the situation of funding and is completely different. In Europe, we have been used, not anymore, but we have been used to, to the state giving a lot of money. In America, it's all private. So the way to approaching, in America, really time is money. Is literally that. So the way to rehearse and to perform is different. That sometimes, for example, in Europe, in Italy, we can have the luxury to have maybe some rehearsals more. And I'm not saying that one is good and the other is not good, because at the end of the story, if you have in front professional musicians, the result are good. Of course, if the conductor knows what he's doing. But the thing is that in certain places you go and you start like this, and then you arrive at the dress rehearsal, and then you do this. In certain other place you go and you do this, and then you stay there. And you need to understand what will be the situation, because every orchestra is a living organism, and would be silly if the conductor goes there in a different orchestra, in a different situation, a different culture, and always behaving, rehearsing the same way. Just doing a very simple parallel, but would be actually if you have the same pilot that try to get the best out of two different cars. Cars are different. You cannot drive it in the same way, no? If you do it, then one of the two cars is going to suffer. So I think, again, is a question that depends a lot from the conductor to understand and to try to really tease out from the musician the best of what they can offer. And and I think that this is a very important quality of a conductor, because just to go there and say, this is what I want, without actually listening to what is coming out is wrong, and is also stupid.
Do you like the Jamshed Bhabha? You like the acoustics, the grandness of the theater?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. His acoustic are so strange, because they can make or destroy a performance. But also some acoustic, when you perform, you think, oh my God, this is terrible. Then you go in the audience and you say, wow, this is fantastic. And then there are some other that is actually the right way to be, because there are some concert hall where you are on the stage, and you rehearse and you say, oh, wonderful, listen and then three rows back, nothing comes out. Well, that is the wrong way around, let's put it.
That's wonderful. The Symphony Orchestra of India turns 20. The SOI Spring 2026 season Please give Carlo Rizzi a lot of love as he conducts, and the tenor Davide Giusti. It's Saturday, 21st Feb, 7 p.m. at the Jamshed Bhabha Theatre. Tickets are live now at Book My Show, and as well as the venue, which is the National Centre of the Performing Arts. Please go get them right away. The SY patron is City, and we're very thankful to City. I really appreciate your time. I know you're about 15-20 minutes away from a performance. We wish you great luck and lots of love, Carlo. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
94.3 Radio 1.